Going into Euro 2020, the reasons to be cheerful for England fans. Having reached the semi-finals of the 2018 World Cup, the nation's best performance at a World Cup since Italy in '90, England have since reached the finals of the inaugural UEFA Nations League and qualified pretty convincingly from an admittedly poor group for Euro 2020. What's more, this is as close to a major tournament on home soil as this current crop of England players will experience. Gareth Southgate's players will play all three of their group games at Wembley Stadium, as well as the semi-final and final, should they get that far. It has been 16 years since England went into a European Championships with such a cause for optimism, taking us back to when England went into Euro 2004 with the best squad of players they'd had in a generation. With that in mind, I'm going to take a look at Sven-Göran Eriksson's preferred 11 at Euro 2004 and what I think will be Gareth Southgate's preferred 11 at Euro 2020 should everyone be fit and raring to go before picking a combined 11 from the available players. Typically with a video like this, I'll go through and do a man-for-man comparison between the players in each position, but England played such a radically different formation in 2004 to the one they did in 2020 that just wouldn't work. Instead, I'm going to read out the two teams, then tell you who would be my ultimate 11 from the players on offer. Back in 2004, England's number one was David James, who was playing for Manchester City at the time and had replaced David Seaman as England number one following the 2002 World Cup. First capped in 1997, James went on to amass 53 caps for the three lions, but not always without criticism. Undoubtedly an excellent goalkeeper at club level, James was capable of the odd blunder, prompting him to be nicknamed Calamity James by certain sections of the ever-brilliant English press. A right-back for England was Gary Neville, who went on to become the country's most capped right-back of all time. Euro 2004 was Neville's final proper tournament with England, as he played at the 2006 World Cup, but was hampered by injuries. Rio Ferdinand was ruled out of Euro 2004 due to suspension following a missed drugs test, and the Manchester United legend never appeared at a single European Championships. England was still very strong at the heart of their defence though, with invincible Sol Campbell, partnered by Chelsea captain John Terry. Campbell won 73 caps for England, whilst Terry won 78. Both men probably ought to have won more, and they're evidence of the depth available to Eriksson at the time. Rounding off an excellent back four on paper was then Arsenal fullback Ashley Cole, who went on to become England's most capped fullback of all time. Although an ageing Paolo Maldini and Roberto Carlos were still playing at the time, a good case could be made for Cole being the best left-back in the world in 2004, and for a good few years after that. It was no secret throughout England's so-called golden generation years, they had an abundance of talent in central midfield. Accommodating them all was the problem, and at Euro 2004, Sven opted, as he often did, to play Paul Scholes wide on the left flank. From right to left, England's 2004 midfield read David Beckham, Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard and Paul Scholes. All four were world-class at the time, and all four are among the finest players English football has produced over the last 40 to 50 years. Although there was no lack of talent, particularly the midfield duo of Lampard and Gerrard sometimes struggled to harmonise. There was often no obvious sitter or defensive midfielder in the team, leaving it looking unbalanced in midfield. The likes of Owen Hargreaves, Nicky Butt and Michael Carrick could all have played there, but it meant dropping one of England's big hitters. It was a talking point among fans and a dilemma for managers for a generation, and it's one for me again when I come to doing my combined 11. From top to bottom, the England team in 2004 really did reek of quality, and up front, Sven could call upon the services of Wayne Rooney and Michael Owen. Rooney was still a teenager in 2004, and not everyone expected him to make the cut, but Sven put his trust in the Evertonian and it paid dividends. Rooney was electric, scoring twice against Switzerland and Croatia, but suffering an injury which might have cost England the quarter-finals against Portugal. The 18-year-old made the UEFA team of the tournament, although he went on to become England's all-time record goal scorer. He would never put in a better performance at a major international finals. Michael Owen's brilliant in an England shirt is all too often overlooked, and if it weren't for some really poorly timed injuries to the centre-forward, England's golden generation may well have won a trophy. Owen was a striker who thrived on the big stage, as he showed at the 1998 and 2002 World Cups. At Euro 2004, Owen scored in England's quarter-final defeat to Portugal, becoming the first England player to score in 4 consecutive major finals. So that was Sven's preferred lineup in the summer of 2004, but let's see how it compares to what Gareth Southgate is working with now. England's undisputed first choice between the sticks these days is Everton goalkeeper Jordan Pickford. There was some speculation going into the 2018 World Cup about who Southgate would pick, but Pickford's heroics in Russia most likely cemented his place in the side, and he seems to save his best performances for England rather than Everton. The Three Lions currently have an embarrassment of riches at right back, from Kyle Walker and Kieran Trippier to young Manchester United fullback Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I think Trent Alexander-Arnold is a shoo-in for the finals this summer though, given the way in which he has been performing for Liverpool. At the heart of his defence, Gareth Southgate has one or two big decisions to make, with the likes of John Stones, Tyrone Mings and Michael Keane all having won caps recently. My suspicion is that the two centre-backs currently foremost in Southgate's mind though are Harry Maguire and Joe Gomez. Maguire was excellent in Russia and has since become the most expensive centre-back in the world. Meanwhile, Gomez has all the attributes to complement him well and might be a no-brainer if he ends the season as Liverpool's regular centre-back partner to Virgil van Dijk. England are less well-equipped at left-back than they are at right-back, but I would be surprised if either Luke Shaw or Danny Rose managed to get ahead of Ben Chilwell in the pecking order now. In the current England midfield, I would suggest that there is only one absolutely nailed-on starter, and that is Jordan Henderson. Should Harry Kane fail to recover in time for the finals, he'll most likely captain the national team, already having won 55 caps for the Three Lions. Southgate then has the option of playing either Declan Rice or Eric Dyer in a deeper position behind him, or any of the likes of Harry Winks, Mason Mount, Ross Barkley, or James Maddison ahead of him. Personally, I'd have Maddison in my England team right now, but I don't think he'll start for Southgate at the Euros. The two I'm expecting to partner Henderson in midfield are his Liverpool teammate Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, who brings real energy and dynamism to England's play, as well as Dele Alli, who looks like he could return to form at Tottenham under Jose Mourinho. Southgate once again has decisions to make on the flanks, with some brilliant young players like Jadon Sancho and Callum Hudson-Odoi. There's a real appetite to see Sancho become a regular for England, and understandably so, given some of his performances with Borussia Dortmund in the Bundesliga. But my gut feeling is that he will have to settle for a place on the bench. Raheem Sterling will be the first name on the England team sheet, and I think Marcus Rashford will start out wide on the left. Through the middle, Harry Kane will play if he is fit. In his absence, you open a real can of worms. Southgate may well look to bring Jamie Vardy back into the fold, whilst Danny Ings is having the season of his life at Southampton. I suspect though that if Kane were to miss out, Tammy Abraham would quite possibly be Southgate's first choice to replace him. Okay, so those are the 22 players available to me, but how would I line up? Well, in goal, I don't think there's an obvious choice. David James is a better goalkeeper in my opinion than Jordan Pickford, but Pickford has arguably already had a greater England career than James. I'll go with who I think is the better goalkeeper, and as I've said that is James, but it's a tight call, and in truth, it's probably the weakest position in this 11. It's a complete juxtaposition between two types of fullbacks who could hardly be more different at right back. Gary Neville gives you experience, leadership and superb defensive positioning. Trent Alexander-Arnold is much less accomplished when facing his own goal, but is in a different league in terms of his offensive capabilities and creativity from the right flank. You could make a case for starting Alexander-Arnold against a weaker opposition, and Neville, when you expect to face more dangerous wide players and forwards, but that would be a bit of a cop-out on my part. Ultimately, if it were up to me, I'd pick Alexander-Arnold. His right foot is such an incredible weapon, he's more suited to the modern game, and England are a team that really ought to be attacking the opposition and not worrying quite so much about what they can do to them. So he's my choice. Picking two centre-backs from a pool of Sol Campbell, John Terry, Harry Maguire and Joe Gomez is incredibly easy as far as I'm concerned. England's duo of 2004 are a million miles ahead of the current pairing. Both Campbell and Terry were among the finest centre-backs in the world for around a decade, and they could both make claims to feature in an all-time England squad, albeit they wouldn't be making my starting 11. Maguire is big, lovable, and the best England have to offer right now, whilst Gomez has the potential to be a fantastic centre-back. They could form a brilliant partnership this summer, but they're yet to show anything that suggests they ought to get the nod ahead of two world-class defenders. Similarly at left-back, Ben Chilwell is an exciting fullback who could have a brilliant Euros with England and is in fine form with Leicester, but as good as Ashley Cole, he most certainly is not. I've already said I thought Cole was arguably the best left-back in the world in 2004, and I don't think that's an argument you could make about Ben Chilwell in 2020, so it's the former gunner Cole who completes our back four. The formation of this side and what to do with essentially 6 midfield players available to us is undoubtedly the biggest decision that has to be made with regards to this 11. I could take the easy decision of playing Gerrard, Lampard and Scholes as a midfield 3 in a triangle with one of them at the base. You might be thinking, Paul Scholes could take up that role, seeing as they played brilliantly as a deep-lying playmaker later in his Manchester United career, but that wasn't really his game in 2004. Although Gerrard, Lampard and Scholes are undeniably the 3 best midfielders available to me, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, is said to be the definition of insanity in a quote widely misattributed to Albert Einstein. Playing without a holding midfield player never worked for England and always seemed to leave them outfought and outthought in the middle of the park. As such, I have to drop one of those three. I happen to think Paul Scholes is the most naturally gifted of the trio, Lampard was the most prolific and the most consistent, and Gerrard was the most complete and probably the best for England, although all three underperformed in an England shirt. To be clear, I'm going to start Jordan Henderson in the holding role, and then you can just about take your pick from Gerrard, Lampard, and Scholes for the two midfield slots ahead of him. In international football, ball retention is so crucial, so I find it hard to overlook Scholes. It's splitting hairs picking between Lampard and Gerrard, but if forced, I'll go with Gerrard. I actually originally picked Lampard when I drafted this video, but I think Gerrard was a little bit more effective in an England shirt, and Liverpool fans will get a lot angrier in the comments about Gerrard being left out than Chelsea fans will about Lampard being left out. So really, it just makes my life a little bit easier to pick the Anfield legend. Out wide on the right, I would have to go with David Beckham, even though he was very much a wide midfielder and wouldn't particularly suit such an attacking role in a 4-3-3. A lot is said of David Beckham, but anyone who disputes that he is one of the finest crossers of a ball and set-piece specialists of all time can't have seen him play very often. Bex was also a tireless runner, he wore his heart on his sleeve with England, and the idea of him and Alexander-Arnold both delivering balls from the right flank would be pretty terrifying for any opposition. I mean, really, we ought to put Crouchy through the middle with those two in the side, would win the tournament before a ball had been kicked. That means Raheem Sterling starts on the opposite flank, since there's no way that Manchester City star doesn't start. Sterling has received a lot of criticism throughout his England career, and one can make their own minds up as to why that has been the case. The Kingston-born but London-raised wide man has scored 65 goals in 127 games in the last 2.5 seasons for Manchester City, which is an absolutely remarkable output for a winger. Sterling is now starting to replicate his club form on the international stage, having scored 8 goals from 9 caps for England in 2019, and he'll be one of the most feared forwards in the entire tournament going into Euro 2020. Up front, I have a dilemma almost as troubling as the one in central midfield, with Wayne Rooney, Michael Owen and Harry Kane all vying for that centre-forward spot. Wayne Rooney had just scored 9 goals in his best season yet going into Euro 2004, but he was only a teenager, and he was absolutely exhilarating in Portugal. Michael Owen's best years were sadly already behind him by 2004, thanks to a series of unfortunate muscle injuries, but he had scored 19 goals for Liverpool the previous season, and he very rarely let England down. Harry Kane may not actually be fit for Euro 2020, but assuming he is, he will provide a huge lift to the rest of the squad. Kane is absolutely devastating in an England shirt, even more so than even Rooney or Owen, and he's well on his way to becoming England's all-time record goalscorer. With everything taken into account, I have to go for Harry Kane. The England captain is simply ruthless in front of goal, he never lets his head drop, he keeps getting in the right positions, and he seems totally unfazed by the pressures and emotions of major international finals. Kane has scored 32 goals from 45 caps for England, and anyone who tells you him missing Euro 2020 could be good for England, as with those people last season who suggested Tottenham were better without him, are very, very silly. To recap, my combined England Euro 2004 versus England Euro 2020 11 looks like this. In goal, David James. The back four from right to left reads Trent Alexander-Arnold, Sol Campbell, John Terry and Ashley Cole. It's a midfield triangle with Jordan Henderson at the base, and Paul Scholes and Steven Gerrard ahead of him, David Beckham wide on the right, Raheem Sterling on the left, and Harry Kane through the middle. If I had to pick a 7-man bench, I'd go for Jordan Pickford, Harry Maguire, Gary Neville, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, Frank Lampard, Wayne Rooney, and Michael Owen. Between Sven and Southgate, I have to go with the wonder of the waistcoat, although I do sometimes think Eriksen gets a bit of an undue hard time from certain sections of the press and supporters for his time with England. Thank you all for watching today's video, I hope you enjoyed it, and if you happen to have any tickets for Euro 2020 lying around that you'd like to give me, that would be really kind of you. No? Well, it was worth a go. The next best thing you can do is probably liking the video and subscribing to HITC Sevens. Cheers, I hope you all have a fantastic day.